On today's World Insight, the third plenum of the 20th Central Committee of the CPC has adopted a resolution to deepen reform, including 300 measures to create new drivers for growth. How can China's economic development be best utilized to achieve this?
Hello and welcome to World Insight, this special program. I'm Tian Wei. Our special roundtable discussion on the third plenum. The 20th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China adopted a resolution on further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization at the third plenary session held in Beijing from July the 15th to the 18th. The resolution has put forward more than 300 important reform measures related to institutions, mechanisms, and systems. To promote high-quality development, the communique urged improving incentive and constraint mechanisms and creating new drivers and strengths for growth. So how to utilize the new quality productive forces to better promote China's economic development and market openness, how to inject more Chinese impetus into promoting the common development and prosperity of mankind. Let's listen to our panelists. I'm glad to be joined by John Ross, Senior Fellow at the Chongyang Institute for Financial Studies with Renmin University of China, Peter Chen, Deputy Director of the Institute of China Studies with University of Malaya, Ishan Metwali, who is the first economist at the Egyptian Ministry of Trade and Industry, Kato Yoshikatsu, Research Fellow from the Rakuten Securities Economic Institute in Tokyo, Ma Jun, Director of the Institute of Public and Environmental Affairs, founder of the Blue Map app, and also Gao Yuning, Deputy Dean of the School of Public Policy and Management from Tsinghua University of China. Gentlemen, what a pleasure to have all of you on such a wonderful panel. Post to the third plenary, there's a lot of discussion about exactly what it means for China and those of you who are watching China from near and afar. Now, I would like to have one sentence or two from every one of you to give us a general impression about what it has meant to you. So let's go to you, Mr. Ma, first.
Thank you. I'm very glad to see that the sustainable development, green development, and the it has been highlighted, has been stressed as a very important part of the new strategy.
Mr. Gao?
I think maybe one sentence is that this third plenum actually found a fundamental framework for the Chinese style of modernization for the next decade.
Mr. Ross?
I think the plenum marks the transition from China from a medium-level economy to a high-income economy by international standards, with all the new challenges that will begin as it begins to develop within that framework.
Mr. Chang?
Leading up to the plenum, there was a lot of anticipation whether the government would open up to more market-driven economy, given more voice to the private sector. But towards the end of the plenum, it looks like the government has decided to stay the course. The state will continue to maintain its primary role.
Mr. Yoshikatsu?
I think China is getting more confident, pursuing its own way with Chinese characteristics. So China is becoming more China. This is very much, characterized over that plenum. Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to, all of you, articulate your ideas about your understanding of the plenum and what it means for all of you in the following questions. Let me start by asking Mr. Gao, when you look at the communique coming out of the third plenum, which has been published immediately after it wrapped up, one thing certainly impressed a lot of people and mentioned about the third plenum of the 18th Party Congress a lot. Which has been believed by many as one that has been emphasizing on reform and also market play a key role. Now, how do you see from the 18th third plenum to the third plenum much difference in terms of market's role?
now it is a new emphasis on the key role, not only about the market itself, but more on the private sector. Because I think during the past several years, we have already seen that President Xi has already gradually emphasized that the equal accessibility of the private sector to the the factors, to the markets, and also to be judged equally. So I think this time, this is kind of emphasized onto the main player on the market, but not only on the market itself. So I think from my perspective, this time we may even in a very short term, we would like to expect, a new law focus on how to support the private sector. So I think this is actually, from my perspective, a focus on the player more than the market itself.
Mr. Ross, same question.
China actually has an incredibly dynamic private sector. But what China hasn't done, which I think is very beneficial, is that it hasn't privatized the existing state enterprises. So that is the key continuity of it. The new development of the situation is, of course, that China is already much more developed economy than it was at the time of the 18th, the third plenary of the 18th Party Congress. Yeah. That means it's more than twice the size as it was at that time. So at that time, we were still dealing with the problems of a medium developed economy, whereas my conceptualization of the whole key issues of the plenum is China is going to become in 2 or 3 years a high income economy by World Bank standards, and therefore the plenum is preparing this new stage of development of China's economy.
Now, I want to read from the communique out of the third plenum, something specifically talking about the public and the private sector. Quote, "We will unswervingly consolidate and develop the public sector and unswervingly encourage, support, and guide the development of the non-public sector," end of quote. Of course, there's a big paragraph describing in details in Chinese more than the English version about all of this. Mr. Yoshikatsu.
I think I read the Chinese original version, and that's a very important sentence. And of course, non-public sectors is equal to private sectors. Maybe some interpretive, understanding. But I think, back to 2013, 18th third plenum. I remember at that time, the plenum, mentioned the market should play a decisive role in the process of resource allocation. And I think now, I think today, at this moment, I think market should be well organized and well controlled by the government, because now China is similar like Japan. China is facing economic security as well. So how to balance economic growth and national security? I think this is a very important question. So I think the nature of market and the importance of market at this moment is slightly changed. So we need to adjust it.
There's a lot of talk about the green transformation in China right before the third plenum. Certainly during the article of the communique out of the third plenum, there's also quite a paragraph describing it. Mr. Ma, how should we understand the green transformation that is taking place right now related to the quality development that China has been articulating in the third plenum?
All these years, we started seeing that China's embracing this ideal of this concept of green transformation is actually started bringing some real, even economic development benefits. Last year, according to research, the renewable energy and its related industries have accounted for about 40% of China's GDP growth. So we can see that all this renewable energy, solar, wind, and EVs and batteries, of course, high-speed trains. All this have been playing an increasingly more important role in growing China's economy.
Images may appear to be identical, but looks can be deceiving. The difference is not always obvious. It has to be discovered. There are always different sides to a story. We put the focus on the details. To see more, to understand better. CGTN. See the difference.
In the communique, it is not only mentioning about the green transformation, but also what they call the green production that leads to green production relationship, 生产关系 in Chinese. So I think that is quite a new terminology, shall we say, or quite a new way of looking at green transformation and its impact. How should we understand that? Because there's so much talk during the third plenum about establishing mechanism and systematic approach.
Yeah, I also think that's a very important and new concept, because originally we more only focus on the production itself. Let's say we kind of try to lowering the emission and try to protect the environment from the production process. But now I think the relation itself means, starting from the producer to the consumer, and also the regulator, and all these players, we should have a common consensus on how to, enhance the prosperity of our economy, at the same time guarantee the sustainability. So all these thinking should be brought into the policy making, starting from the design of the economic growth target, to, let's say, how to design the industrial structural transformation, all these things. So these relations, I think, is important, that we not only focus on the technology itself, but also about the policy, about the incentive mechanism onto the consumers, and even to our daily lives.
Having said that, though, Mr. Ross, now, green transformation in China has always been a very positive development, not only for the Chinese economy, but also for China's contribution to the SDGs of the world. But at the same time, now these days, as a result of several factors, it is so much related to some of the trade issues. Now, observing from where you are, how do you see that this time during the third plenum, China not only mentioned about the green transformation, but also mention about the local government's distinctive approach given their specific conditions based on their own realities of the localities, and also the mentioning of the new production relationship?
Well, no, I think one of the two understanding China's reform and opening up, of course, means an orientation of China to the International Division of Labour. This is considered so fundamental, it's even in the words of it. But there is nothing magic about international division of labour. It's just a specific form of the division of labour which has to occur nationally. And this is a specific thing that, I mean, ever since the foundation of economics, 250 years ago, by Adam Smith, people have known that specialisation and division of labour is the most powerful force driving forward the economy. And therefore, this is continuing within China itself. The infrastructure of China, for example, which is very developed, is not only important in a physical sense, it's crucial because it allows this development of specialization and division of labor within China. So this development within China, the domestic market, is integrally related with the international market as well.
Another issue that is being mentioned is about China's innovation capabilities and also scientific and technological development. Now, Mr. Gao, sitting from where you are in Tsinghua University, I'm sure you have a better understanding than most of us about, what has been the picture and what is needed to be done. Now, among the paragraph describing China's innovation and scientific technological development. What do you see is the key here?
I think from my perspective, yeah, this is actually one of the main beauty of the research university in China, just like Tsinghua University. We actually have a very important responsibility to enhance our capacity of the so-called original innovation. That's in general we call that the kind of innovation from 0 to 1, but not just following other creators' work. So I think the most important thing in China today, especially in the university today, is that we should give, especially the young talents, together with the young professors, very friendly environment to encourage them to do more innovative job, and at the same time to allow them to have any failure based on their existing condition. Currently, this is a very important stage for us to encourage the young talents to, try their best to innovate at all directions they wish. So this is actually at the same time, from my perspective, it is also from the university side is trying to adopt, for example, the AI technology in not only in research but also in teaching. But the last thing is that I also see that in the coming that now the private business should also play important role to, let's say, lead the innovation system in the future. So I think as a university, we should also encourage our best graduates to work for the private business and to the best innovation.
And also, Mr. Metwally.
China has made a significant advance in the research and development. In this term, the new industries and is now catch up also in China. If you read the numbers, the most income coming from export now is from artificial intelligence export and the new technology. The 3D printing now is the most thing we can export from China, and also printed circuits and renewable energy components. These are sectors of the leading economy, Chinese economy, which depend on the innovation more and more. So my advice is to spend more and maybe assign more money to the innovation and the research more than ever.
Another question, of course, is about China's reform and opening up. Earlier, we have been mentioning these two phrases always at the same time, but certainly this time during the third plenum, reform has been the very top of the agenda. Well, at the same time, in the communique, there is a paragraph that put a huge emphasis on the opening up as well. It has been always regarded as a key tool for China's reform, a way for China's reform to happen by opening up. Mr. Yoshikatsu, can you tell us more your general impression about the sincerity of opening up and also the ways of opening up described by the third plenum communique?
Yeah, back to my time in China, maybe 10 a decade ago. Actually, at that time, reform and opening up, that this word, back to that era, still very much popular, and actually reform and opening up are interconnected. So this is very inevitable for China's modernization. So I think now China, this is an extension. There is a continuity, but now, as I said previously, China is getting more, confident and put more emphasis on Chinese characteristics. So this is why I'm saying China is pursuing its own way. So I think my general impression is, China is, still, doing its own job. Reform and opening up policy. This is, since the 1970s, right? I think at that time China is, starting this journey, and pushing forward its modernization and getting richer and getting stronger. So I can see this continuity and extension. So I think hopefully China, and as an Asian or China's neighbor, China is pursuing its own way with its own characteristics. And as for the rest of the world, we need to adjust to this process, and to find a way to work out together. I think this is, accurate way to collaboration.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
Mr. Ross, also to you, how much sincerity are you reading out of this paragraph regarding China's opening up out of the communique of the third plenum? And this certainly, as Mr. Yoshikatsu just said, very different stage of development when it comes to China's opening up. So how would you characterize if China's opening up can be the key to success, should be the characteristics of this period of time?
The reality is, since 1978, with reform and opening up, China has had the fastest sustained growth of any major economy in the whole of human history. Why should it wish to abandon that? This would be the equivalent of sort of taking out a shotgun and shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, the development that China has got is now in line also with the majority of the world economy. It is the tragedy, or the problem is, that the United States is turning inwards. This will become official, of course, if Trump imposes a 10% tariff on all imports into the US, which is what he said he'll do. Whether he will do it is another thing. But whether that's proposed, that will be the official turn of the United States towards protectionism. Europe is doing that. But on the other hand, you have the big global South economies, not merely China, but India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Turkey, etc. They're not turning in, and they're turning outwards. So you've got two trends in the world economy. You've got China plus the global South, which is turning outwards to globalization, and Europe and the United States, which are turning inward on themselves. So it's in China's best interest to continue opening up. So therefore it will continue to opening up. Don't listen to the words, just look at what's the practice of China and what it's benefited from.
Mr. Chang?
Yeah, indeed. I echoes what Professor Ross has said. China opening up has benefited China a great deal, although the West have begun to turn inwards, but the global South is really turning outwards towards China. We want to connect with China. The turning inwards is just happening in one part of the world, but the other parts of the world are still engaging each other. Globalization is not dead in our part of the world. We want to stay connected, and we hope that China will continue to reform and open up. That formula has been successful, proved successful for them for the last 50 years, and I'm sure that it will continue to be so if we can continue to maintain that kind of relationship.
Now China's opening up is actually inconsistent with its so-called dual circulation strategy, because its opening up is not only a one direction opening up. It's not only China opening up to the world and welcome the foreign investors. No doubt. Now, when we're building up the universal market, definitely we want to make this market become more abstractive to all the multinational companies and foreign investors. But at the same time, China's opening up, it has another direction, is China's going out. Its going out is not only about going out of China's products, the made in China, but also the factors, China's investment, China's the talents, even other labor force, and also even data. So now I think the new direction is that when China's opening up, is making Chinese enterprises, Chinese people have better opportunity to evolve into the next stage of globalization and make China's own contributions. So I think this opening up now has gradually stepped into its new stage.
Now, there has been a lot of talk about reform and also the high quality development. There's also an emphasis of systemic approach. There's also a lot of talk about establishing the mechanism, the governance reform, and also improvement. How should we understand these political jargons in the Chinese sense and be able to get to the real essence of it? What do you think is needed for the next couple of weeks for all of us to understand better about what exactly the third plenum means to all of us?
China has gone from being almost the world's poorest country, there are only 10 countries in 1949 with lower per capita GDP, to becoming in about 2 years' time a high-income economy. There is no achievement like that in the whole of human economic history.
Okay.
And therefore that process is continuing.
I think I expected to find some detailed plans about how to address the local challenges, like state, like property challenges, houses, how to solve this market, because it affects the local market and also stability of the business for many companies and many families. So this issue needs a lot of investments from the government, and it's expanding with the time. If we didn't solve it now, maybe after 1 or 2 years, it needs more investments and more money for support from the government to solve this. Because, for instance, now the government has announced a plan for $67 billion to support local governments to buy new houses and distribute for the needed families with ease loans. Okay. But this amount of money is not enough. This case needs about $500 billion to solve. So there is a very big gap between what is needed and what is proposed. So I think as a local, domestic, we need to find out the plans how to face the challenges.
China has become the country with the fastest improvement of air quality and also the vast expansion of China's renewable energy and the EV penetration rate. I've all in some way surprised many others in the world. And but I think behind that we need to understand that the building of the framework of ecological civilization allows China to create some forward-looking policies that allows this to happen. Recently I've been participating in a whole series of international meetings. When I mentioned some of the policy institutional systems, such as spatial planning system, China allocates 3 million square kilometers to red line zones that focus on eco-conservation and drinking water sources protection.
I'm sure all these analyses of the third plenum will be further studied, and also new ideas, new policies will be tested out, and so that we know how it works and eventually what it would mean, the third plenum of the 20th Party Congress, for all of us, those in China and also from different parts of the world. Thank you so much for such a distinguished panel. And that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to know more, search World Insight or check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on X and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei. On behalf of my team, thanks for being with us.